Hi everyone, Dave here. Thanks for joining us for another episode of Legends of the Spire. On the podcast this week we've got Nozzer, Steve Norris. He's one of the most requested people I've had on the podcast since I started recording it earlier this year, so it was great that he said yes to come on and talk about his time at Chesterfield. He's a prolific natural goal scorer, had amazing spells at Scarborough and Halifax before joining us at Chesterfield in 1992. And he's probably most well known for that 4-4 draw at Anfield where he bagged a couple of goals in that amazing game. So it was good to speak to him about that. We also had a chat about managers, in particular John Duncan, who we had a bit of a fractious relationship with. And it was good to get his opinions on just goal scoring and football in general. So it was good to speak to him. As always, we're at Spire Legends on Twitter. And if you search Legends of the Spire on Facebook, we've also got a page on there. So it'd be good to hear from you. You can also comment on our YouTube videos, and please do subscribe as well. We're Legends of the Spire on YouTube. So I hope you enjoy the episode. Here is Nozzer, Steve Norris. Great, well thanks for coming on.
No problem.
Like I said, you're one of the people that's been requested most from supporters, yeah. So you obviously gave them some happy memories over the years, so that's good.
Yeah. See, there weren't many who disliked the way I played, so that was a good thing. Yeah.
So if I just spend a couple of minutes just talking about kind of life before Chesterfield, just so they get a bit of context before you signed for us. So are you actually from Coventry? Is that right? That kind of area?
Yeah, I was born there 22nd of September 1961, which is obviously the night we played Anfield, the 4-4. It was on my birthday, so that always rings true. And I lived there till I was 20. Once I moved to Scarborough, I was 27. Yeah, just 27. I moved to Scarborough, and then I was there for 4 years. I moved here in '92. In that meantime, I went to Carlisle and Halifax in the meantime, because obviously the house market had dropped then and we couldn't sell the house. So
yeah.
And then I've stayed here because my kids are here, and you're nice people, but you speak funny. But other than that, you're all right.
1 out of 2 is not bad. So who were you supporting when you were growing up? Spurs.
Yeah, still now. Granddad on this side, grandson. This one is so. I followed them all through my life. Luckily, when I won my Golden Boot, Jimmy Greaves was. He presented me my Golden Boot, which he was my first hero at Tottenham. So that was a great thrill. And that day I met Stanley Matthews, Tom Finney, Nat Lofthouse, George Best, Alan Smith, Teddy Sheringham. So yeah, it was a bit surreal, really, but yeah, lovely.
So who was your idol then? Who were you modelling yourself on as you were starting to play?
Greaves, to be fair, he was. I used to just take people on, beat players and beat goalkeepers, sit them down and roll them in, same as he did. And then I had a spell. Well, Glenn Noddle was still God for me. He were awesome. And I used to play midfield before I went back up front later on. But he was a different quality. He was world class. But so was Jimmy Greaves. So you can't, pick out of them two. They're both brilliant players. Awesome.
Yeah. And were you always the goal scorer, even when you were a kid?
I was when I was a kid, and then I liked Doddle that much. I tried playing in midfield, and I could pick a pass and all that. But then people kept saying to me, I got caught a couple of times, got injured, and someone said, "Oh, why not you're quick and that instead of beating 3 or 4 from the halfway line and scoring, why don't you only have to beat 1 and then knock it in?" So I went back up front through an injury, and I finished up with 27 goals in about 34 games for Long Buckby. We won the league and won the cup. And then in the summer, Jimmy Knox came in for me at VS Rugby, which is, he was brothers with Archie Knox, who was at Man United with Alex Ferguson. And I went there and I scored, I think it was 88 or 89 goals in about 126 games, I think it was. And they all come after me then. There was Lincoln, Coventry, Birmingham. There were loads. And then we played Bristol City in the FA Cup first round proper. And we'd gone through 5 rounds before you get to that one. And then we played them, and David Moyes marked me, obviously at West Ham now. And we drew 2 all at our place and lost down there. And after the game, he came up to me in the bar and spun me around. He goes, "That's what you look like. I've been chasing the back of your head for 2 games." So the following week, the gaffer, Jimmy Knox, asked me if I'd go, would I like to go on trial to Bristol City? Well, the year before, we played Orient, Frank Clough. Frank Clark used to be at Forest with Cloughie. He tried to sign me, but the manager at the time said I wouldn't like London. But all my family's from London, so from Tottenham. So anyway, that didn't happen. And then I said, well, if I go, I want to be, hopefully I'll get the move. So I went down, had a week's trial. They had me in on the Friday at Bristol, and Terry Cooper was manager, ex-left back for England, and Clive Middlemass. So I went in, and they said, right, we'll give you, I don't know, it was about 320 quid a week or something. And they wanted me to sign. So they were going to come back on this was the Friday, and I was going to play my last game for VS Rugby in a cup game that had been dragged over from the following season against Willenhall. I think we won 6 and I scored 3 or 4 or something, and we beat them. And I was supposed to meet him before the game. So I came with my dad. When we walked in, managers right at the end of the club, and my dad went, "I don't like this." And he says, "Oh, they've come all the way up, and then they've decided they've changed their mind. They don't want to sign you." So my dad went, "This stinks." He says, "No one travels 250 miles to come and tell you." He didn't pick a phone up. So then I fell out with the club. I weren't going to play for them. And it was pre-season sort of thing. And so I was training on my own, and then I didn't go. And then we played somebody else, and Stan Staunton was after the game from Telford. And he says, "Do you still want to go higher?" I says, "Yeah." I didn't really want to go to bloody non-league again. But anyway, I ended up signing for Stan Staunton. And I told him, I said, if I come, I'll come on one condition, that if anyone comes in for me, I want to know about it. I want to go. I want to play in the league. So he goes, "Yeah, I'll put you on the top money. No one else is on that type of money, £100 a week." And I think I got a few grand signing on. So anyway, I signed, found out I was the lowest paid at Telford. Everyone was on 200, 250, 300 quid. There was a few England semi-pro players. So I went there, and I ended up winning the Golden Boot. I ended up with 34 goals in 39 games, something like that. I can't remember really off the top of my head. Anyway, I got a plaque sort of thing, not a Golden Boot like the one I've got. And I went there, and we played Stockport and Asa Hartford. After the 2 games, he tried to sign us, but they couldn't afford the money. And then as that season progressed, it was near the end of the season, we went to Wembley, took us all the way to Wembley. I scored in every round. And after the game, I got a phone call from a guy who was chief scout at Sheffield Wednesday under Howard Wilkinson. So this was a Sunday after the Saturday, or it was a Monday, still a bit hungover. And the phone went, and this bloke goes, "Oh, I'm such and such from Sheffield Wednesday." And I started talking to him. And he'd ring me up and just speak to me, and then I got a phone call at work with me, because I worked for my dad, and he said, "Oh, the guy from Sheffield Wednesday's on." So I says, "Oh, hello, Bob," or whoever he was, and he says, "No, it's Mr. Wilkinson," like that. And I went, "Oh shit." I spoke to him, and he says, "Well, we want to sign you. I haven't seen you, but I've had great reports." He says, "But if we can't just sign you. We need to sign someone, no disrespect, but a big name, and then bring you in under the radar sort of thing." So I went, "All right." Well, Neil Warnock's, I know he'd been after us for a while. Anyway, he came in, but they'd offered 50 grand up front, then another 50 after 20 games, another 50 after 40 games. And I ended up going to Scarborough. Neil Warnock was coming off with 50 grand, but he got a good relationship with Stan Staunton, I think, at the time. And so anyway, I ended up going to Scarborough, which 50 grand, which was a record at the time, out of non-league. No one had ever spent that money on a player. It only lasted a week. Robbie Codner went to Brighton the following week for about 110, I think it was. But yeah, so I went there and I scored, I think it was 8 in the first 9 games. We beat Portsmouth in the Coca-Cola or Littlewoods, whatever it was back then. Then we played Southampton. We drew at our place. I scored against Peter Shilton in that one. And Matt Letizia was only 19. He played. He looked a different level. He did. And so we played down there and we got beat. I think it was 1-0. We missed a great opportunity. Mitch Cook put it over the bar from about. I went through, beat a couple of defenders and crossed it. And middle of the goal, he should have just, if it had it down, it was in. He put it over the bar. But anyway, Paul Rideout scored for them, made it 1-0, and we got beat.
Again, controls the ball well, tries to turn, feed Connor and couldn't. Good defending by Scarborough. Oh, and Cook does supremely well. And has put Norris away. Is this the chance? He's beaten one man. Is this it? Yes! That's 1-0 on the night, and Steve Norris. What a super goal after 35 minutes.
But then obviously I was at Scarborough. I'd done my knee. I'd been playing with an injury for a while. I'd done my knee, and then I got the operation on the 23rd of December. I come out on Christmas Eve, I think it was. I came home and I was out injured for a good while. And at Scarborough, they didn't have no rehabilitation or, you should have gone to Lilleshall really, but they didn't. And I was training, and then I come back too early and it was fluid pissing out my knee, and it were a nightmare. So that didn't help. And then I think then the end of the season I didn't play, and then I did all pre-season on my own, trying to get my knee right. And then I came back, and Clyde Middlemass had come in for me for Carlisle, and they'd offered 65 grand, I think it was. So I went there, and then I only started and finished probably 5 games out of about 20. And then
I was going to say, because looking at your goal scoring stats throughout your career, it's brilliant everywhere. But then you look at Carlisle and you kind of think, oh, like 5 goals or something.
Started and finished 5 games. And if you put together most of the others, it come up to about 2 games, I think, in total. But I think it was the end of that season. It was, what was it, 90, I think it was 89, 90. Yeah. And he says, look, you can't get sold, your house can't get sold. And I was travelling, it was 167 mile or 176 mile a day to go training and back, both ways. So I ended up, he says, oh, look, we'll see if we can get you a move. So I said, all right then. So anyway, start the season come, I weren't playing. And then he said, oh, I've got Jim McCallio is coming to watch him. We were playing Bury on a Tuesday night at Bury, and it was lashing down with rain. It was horrible. And anyway, we played, I don't know what the score was. And he come to meet me and he says, do you fancy going to a pub and have a drink? So I said, yeah, all right then. So I went out a drink, and he said, look, I just want you to come, score goals. Don't worry about the defending side. If they shout at you, just put your hand up and go, sorry, like that. He says, but just get free kicks, penalties, and score goals. So I went, and they hadn't scored for 8 games, I think it was. This was the 9th game. We played Scunthorpe, and we drew. And then the following game was Carlisle away. And we went there, and we won 3-0. I scored. Billy Barr got the first one. And then from there on, I was just scoring a goal, 2 goals, whatever. And I ended up with 30 goals out of 39 games. Yeah. I'd scored 2 at Carlisle before that.
What was the celebration like at Carlisle? You weren't tempted to knee slide in front of the bench?
Oh, were you? No, well, not with my knees, no. But it was. I got so much abuse off the Carlisle players. They were horrible when I was there. They were nasty. You were going down the tunnel, they're spitting on you, throwing things. That was like when you were playing for them. It was, and obviously, and then I think I went back a couple of times with Chesterfield, and I've dummied to shoot, cut inside, I bent in top corner, ran to their fans and like that. I got death threats, I got letters sent me. Oh God, you should have seen it. Unbelievable.
And when you were at Halifax, you had St. Greavesy come up, didn't you?
Yeah.
Still on YouTube, I think.
Yeah, it is. I only watched it the other day. Someone, who was it asking me? Someone asked me, and Sarah said, "Oh, put on your St. Greavesy to show me goals." And then obviously the Liverpool goals are on there as well. And obviously when I did that, it was the following 2 weeks after that, I think it was, or 3 weeks after that, that I got presented by Jimmy Greaves. So that was good, because we all stood round at the NEC, and there was Nat Lofthouse, Stanley Matthews, Tom Finney, then there was Alan Smith from Arsenal, Teddy Sheringham, Luther Blissett, Tommy coming from Scotland, and me. And I'm thinking, and then Jimmy walks in, and everyone turns around, shakes his hand, pushes everyone out of the way, and puts his hand out. He goes, "You got your move yet, son?" And I went, "No, Jim," like that. He goes, "Anyway, we're talking." So when he presents the golden boots, does Alan Smith first, then Teddy Sheringham, Luther Blissett. And then he gets to me, he goes, "You won't heard of this lad. He's played for Halifax Town. He scored all these goals." And he showed me a big bank of tellies. They're about 20 by 10 or something like that. All these tellies. Showed all the goals. And he says they should give their boots to him for what he's achieved at Halifax. You know, my chest was bouncing out my chest. My heart was, sorry. And it were amazing, to be fair, to meet him. And then what was it, 4 years ago now, not long after he had his stroke, I was working for Asda down in Dagenham, and I knew his address where he was, and I knocked on the door and went round and spoke to his wife, and I went in and had a couple of minutes with him. He didn't look well, to be fair, but it was just nice. And she goes, "Oh, he remembers you, Steve." He got a bit of a smirk on his face. So, but I think he's in a real bad way at the moment. He's not good, but I suppose he's had a good innings, hasn't he?
Yeah, and you scored loads of goals, didn't you, that season? What was it, like 35? Was it?
I think it was 30. I think it was 30. I'd scored 2 for Carlisle, and then I think it was 32 in 39 games, I think it worked out at. Yeah. And then I had a following season, and they changed the manager. They brought in bloody John McGrath, who was a nut job. He came in, and I think I ended up finishing. I think I finished with 44 goals in 60 games the time I left to come to town.
Present Ian Rush, you might think, or perhaps Steve Bull. Maybe it's Teddy Sheringham of Millwall. Well, it's none of those top strikers. In fact, it's a chap from the low reaches of Division 4, and Mark Tyler has been to meet him.
To see the country's leading goal scorer in sharp-shooting form last weekend, you'd have had to have been at Scunthorpe's Glanford Park. Hardly the most glamorous location to view one of the lower division's hottest properties, but compared to home, it must have felt like Wembley. Norris first hit the headlines when he won the penalty that gave Scarborough that famous Littlewoods Cup win over Chelsea last season. And for Halifax, he's proved the perfect remedy for the club's early season goal famine. So why is he doing so well?
I expressly told him that I wanted him getting forward and looking for goals, and to forget a little bit about the defensive side of things. And he certainly produced the goods. And in my opinion, I think he's the best striker in 3rd or 4th division at the moment.
What's interesting about it is that before Halifax signed him, which was 8 games into the season, they hadn't scored a goal. And here he has scored 30 goals. I like the way he takes them in.
Oh, yeah,
takes the keepers on and beats them. You keep going, Steve. That's the way, mate.
Done well, the boy.
So when you signed for Chesterfield, it was Chris McMenemy, wasn't it, that was manager at the time? So, and I've not really spoken to anyone about him as a manager. I've kind of spoken to a few other players about different managers throughout the time. So what was he like?
Real nice fella. He was younger than me. I think he was only 29. He was, Chris. Real nice guy. I'm in contact with him now on Facebook because he lives out in Spain. But yeah, real nice guy. Put on great sessions for shooting and that. Great 5-a-sides we used to do and all that. He was excellent. Man management was not too bad. But, you know, and you put that against John Duncan, who was the most negative, and he was a hero of mine at Spurs. You know, he scored like 1 in 2 for Tottenham and for Scotland. Great football. He played with Oddle and Ardiles and Villa and all them. But his sessions were the same every day. Boring. You never did hardly any shooting. And we used to go out, you know, for games. He'd pat him on the back, go, defend, 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 get to me, get us a goal. And then we were playing, I think it was Gillingham, I think it was. And the ball came I'm on the right, and the left-hand side that keeps kicking up to us. And as it comes up, it's gone into like middle of the goal, middle of the pitch. Kevin Davies, he's only 16, 17. And the ball's coming to him. Kev's jumped up, and I'm 20 yards away from him. So then it's got knocked down, someone's missed tackle, and the tackle, it's gone through, gone up, and they've scored. So when we have the inquest into it, I get the blame for the goal. And I says, how come? He says, well, you should have run 20 yards and won the header, and then I said, yeah, but what about, he missed a tackle and he couldn't get there and he missed a tackle and all that. Yeah, but it all started from you. This is what I got every game. So he just had a thing about me, because everyone say, oh, he's like similar to you, because he was classed as not working hard, but scoring the goals. But
did you get that inkling from him straight away then when he?
Yeah, Chris Martin, as soon as he knew he would come in, Chris Martin says, that's you done. He says, he won't like you. And at first, he thought I would superb, because we played Derby in the Derbyshire Senior Cup. And Craig Shorter used to be at Scarborough with, and Darren Wattle, who was at Forest. They were playing, I'll give them a run around. We ended up getting beat, I think 7-2. I think I scored 1 or 2 goals. I can't remember as facts, but and after that, he couldn't believe how I could take him under the ball, take him beyond, and come back, have it to feet, and he thought it was great. But then within, I don't know, I started off the season, I think I got 7 or 8 man of the matches in a row. And then the winter come, and then because I'm not on a dry surface, and then centre halves can slide and tackle and all that. But then come the end of the season, I think no one had even got close to me. They've only got about 2 or 3 man of the matches, and then coming near the end of the season, but he kept leaving me out because he didn't want me to win the award. And it was the same with the Golden Boot that season. I think I had another chance of winning it with Town, and I was level, or I was 1 ahead or 1 behind somebody at the time. I think it was Spike Carter at Bury. And then he didn't play me because he didn't want me to win it, because then it would have gone against him, And I just couldn't. I just thought, God, you can be that petty, but that's what he was like, I'm afraid. But he was, like I say, I'll play golf with him now, and I wish him well. But yeah, going back to Chris McMenemy though, he put on great sessions. Nice fella. We just needed it. We were probably a couple of players, maybe short of being a half decent side, to be honest. Daichi was just coming through, Kev came into the realm. But see, Chris McMenemy had got Kev coming, because I was on the treatment table through the summer with my knee, because I had a knee operation, and he was saying, "Wait till you see this kid come, this Kev Davis," and obviously, he did what he did. He was brilliant. But John got all the plaudits for that, which it weren't him at all. It was Chris. But yeah, he did all right, the lad.
Yeah, and obviously the most well-known game, and the one that you're still dining out on, is that 4-4.
Yeah.
Which, like you say, was a nice birthday treat for you.
Well, going to the game, I remember we were all in a hotel at just outside Liverpool. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, bloody hell, I wonder how many internationals he's going to get out. So anyway, we get to the ground, we go out onto the pitch, and we come back in, and the pitch was like £2,000 a square yard carpet. It was, and your footprints were left in the pit. Oh, it was beautiful. And we came in, and I remember Mick Leonard getting the team sheet, and he went and look at it. He goes, "We can beat these. They've only got 7 internationals," like that. So we're all thinking, Jesus. And then obviously I scored, I think it was 9 minutes or 6 minutes into the game, something like that. And I remember Andy Morris nodding it down, beat Mark Wright in the air. And then I just got across the defender, Nicky Tanner, and I just put my studs on it because Davis James was in front of me like that. And it went in, and I ran past the post with my arms up. And I just looked to the cop, and their mouths were all wide open. Like, I just went, ah, like that as I ran. And then there was nothing from our end, because obviously the ball from that end, you probably couldn't see. And then next minute, this bloody great big roar went up. And I remember running back, and Andy Morris coming to me, he goes, "I bloody couldn't believe that you do it, you'd score here." So all I kept thinking was, I'd love to score in front of the cop, with my family being there, my mum and my dad. And then second half, They come back to 3-2. And then I bent my run, and Cliffy Carr at left back put it over the top. And I remember it bouncing, and I'm running, and I've just gone full fly on my chest, and it's gone up again. I thought, oh, gee. And I could hear coming behind me. I thought, should I hit it or should I drag it inside? So I'm waiting for this ball to come down, and I thought, sod it. So I've just gone wallop, left foot. He's got both hands. It's gone through into the back of the net, and I could see Ray Cat, ex-wife, and I remember going behind the goal, and I could see my mum, my dad, my sisters, and all that, and all the fans were going mad, and a lot of lads who I see down Brampton now, they'd come jumping on me, and I didn't know them at the time, and I was like thinking, wow, like that, and as I turn away, all our lads catch me up, and they jumping on me. So then once that finished, I turned back. I just stood there and just doing that, looking at our fans. So as I turn away, referee's caught me up, and he's gone, if you do that again, I'm going to book you. I said, if I score an hat-trick, you can effing send me off.
I wondered what it was, because I could see on the video you and the referee having a word after that goal.
Yeah, and I'm going, well, what do you expect me to do like that, you know? And he was just laughing and that. But I should have scored a hat-trick, really. And I had an header that hit David James on the chest from a free kick, and then from the resulting free kick, he's gone up for the ball and he's got both hands on it, and then I've just thought he's got it, and as I move away to come out, he drops it, hits me straight on the bloody on my ankle, and that Cosmar was on the line. He kicked it off the bloody line. If I'd just been, I always used to think, expect the unexpected, and there I didn't. I should have had a tap in for an hat-trick, really. But when we looked at it, I watched the game. After the game, I thought, God, we played really well. I've watched the video back, the full game. I think we had four shots on target, or 6 shots, and we scored 4. And they battered us, really. But at the time, in the euphoria of everything in the game, you just thought it was it was a good game, and we thought we deserved what we did. But when you looked at it, it was they were head and shoulders, really.
Williams again. Rodgers looking for Morris, and Morris has made it a chance, and there's Norris. He scored for Chesterfield. 6 minutes gone, and Liverpool have been beaten by Chesterfield's first strike on goal. A typical Chesterfield move, in which Rodgers picks out Andy Morris, the big man. He outleaped the England defender, and at close quarters there was Steve Norris to poke it home. Chesterfield leading here at Anfield. Liverpool 0, Chesterfield 1, 6 minutes gone. That seems to be a handball against Rosenthal. Hebdo for Chesterfield. Carr first time, and Liverpool looking for offside. It's not given. It's Norris. He's in the clear. 4-2. His second of the night for Chesterfield. Their 4th. He can celebrate. Chesterfield can as well. Almost a goal from nothing. Carr's long ball through. Right. A moment's hesitation. It looked to the linesman. But Norris was onside when the ball was played. We won't see the incident where it was played through. We will see the moment that he beats David James with a fierce left-footed drive. And Chesterfield extend their lead. Liverpool 2, Chesterfield 4. And Chesterfield have performed heroics by being the first team since the 1960s to score 4 at Anfield. 2 to Norris, 2 to Lancaster. Their supporters applaud and appreciate them. They do the like. Liverpool scoring 4 times too, through Wright, Rosenthal, Hutchinson and Walters. The second leg to come in a couple of weeks' time. That should be something to look forward to. But here at Anfield, Liverpool 4, Chesterfield 4, the 2 goal scorers in front of you.
I think it was the first time since the 60s that a team had scored 4.
Yeah, I think Man United was the last team to score 4 there. And it was only recent, wasn't it, that someone beat them 4? Was it Arsenal scored 4 there some years ago? Arshavin got 4. I think since then there's only been, since West, I think there's only been maybe 2-3 teams who've managed to do that. But it was a brilliant night, and because we get in the players' bar, and I was trying to get my mum and dad in, And they're going, oh, no, you won't be able to. And then, so I went down and told them. They said, oh, okay then. And then we were all in the players' bar, and then we leave and gets in the bus. We've only gone half a mile out the ground, and there's a massive big boozer on an island. And all of a sudden he pulls in. I'm thinking, what are we doing in here? Like that. So he's, come on, we'll go in here for a drink. And I'm thinking, I'm at the front with, I think, Daichi and Mick Leonard. We open these doors and it's just packed solid with Liverpool fans. And the whole pub just went silent, deathly silent. I thought, oh, we're going to die here. And next minute, they just all started applauding. They come in, they bought us all drinks and that. Then we left and we came back here. And I think it was me, Tony Bryan, Lee Francis. We were only locals. All the rest lived away. So we went into town. I think it was Montmartre, is it? We went into there. And as we walked in, the lights spun round. And this is, ladies and gentlemen, Chesterfield Football Club. I think we crawled out there about 2 o'clock in the morning. The free drinks. Yeah, it was... that's what I can remember of the night, to be honest. But, yeah.
It's funny when you get a game like that, because it's, even now with the video on YouTube and stuff, it's quite a lot of them are Liverpool fans saying, "Oh, they played amazing that night." So it's nice, isn't it, when the opposition fans are giving you a round of applause? You know you've done something right.
They were saying before the game, we hope you beat us, so you can get rid of Souness, because they hated Souness, apparently, the manager. But the fans were saying they clapped us off at the end of the game, got a great round of applause from them, because obviously they're all round by the dugout, and our fans were all behind the goal. Because I think there's a lad called Pat Hutchinson. He used to be a bit of a lad in his day, and he got arrested. Every time I see him, he goes, "You still owe me a drink for getting sent off at Anfield." He seen me score around on the pitch, and he got sent off, spent the rest of the game in a cell under the ground. So every time I see him, he always says I owe him a drink. But I've been lucky enough he hasn't caught me yet for it.
Because we spoke to Phil Walker about when he played at Anfield, and he was saying how they were kind of told by Arthur Cox not to engage in any conversation with the Liverpool players because they might try and kind of belittle them or intimidate them a bit. I wondered if anyone I didn't have a chat with you throughout the match or anything.
No, Mark Wright kept getting the ball, and he kept knocking it out to Mark Walters, and they kept overhitting it and putting it into the stand. So then Jack Lemon goes to me, he goes, "Nozza, close him down." He says he keeps pinging the ball out there. So he's listening to Mark Wright's listening to this. I went, "I'd rather let him have the ball the way he's playing, England centre half like that." And he went, "What did you say?" I went, "I'm on £475 a week, mate. How much are you on?" He was on about 10 grand. And he just went, "Fair point," like that. So he didn't come back with him. But Andy Morris just smashed him all over. On the day, he just out jumped him. See that when Andy was on his game, he was unplayable. He just bossed anybody, beat him in the air. He was strong. He could run a bit. When you had someone like that, and then Lanky as well, when he got going, he was like a bloody steam train as well. Then me being nippy, but we weren't a bad the three of us up front, we did well. And then obviously when Kev come, there was me, him and Andy. But I used to say to Duncan, I said, "Why don't you play the three of us together?" I said, before they know it, we'd be 3 up, end of the game. "Oh no, you open up the floodgates and all that." And then obviously we fell out, and then he didn't play me. And then as soon as he brought Tony Lilmer, he played Andy, Tony, and Kev up front together. And then they scored the goals. But it was a dire football to play in. We every training session was the same thing. We'd go up to place at Temple Normanton on a crappy pitch, and all we'd do is be on the halfway line, booting balls in for Daichi, Darren Carr, and Nicky Law, and they would kick and volley them or head them as far as they could out the bloody ground. We'd do that for 30 minutes. We'd do a warm up for like 20 minutes, and then they'd do some cones, and you had to dribble in and out the cones. And when you come to actually shoot, it was like you were looking at that to try and score. You had to have an amazing shot and bend it in the top corner. And you'd have one from that side, one from that side. You said, "Right, come on, kid, get them in the three, get them back to ground." That was every single day, the same thing every single day. It was brain destroying. And then come games, if I scored, got a goal, that was it. You all get back behind the ball, lock up shop, and that's it. Go for a 1-0 instead of going out. I'd rather win 4-3 than bloody 1-0, because the fans used to say, God, it's so boring to watch. It's and I'm thinking, it's supposed to be an entertainment game here. They're paying the good money that they work all weekend and they want to see a decent game of football.
Yeah, and it's funny really, because you played. So John Duncan came in February '93, I think it was, and in like the '93-'94 season, you played most of the games, scored like 20 goals or something. Yeah. So was it like every match that you and all throughout that season that you felt that it didn't really fancy you? And nothing you could do?
No, it doesn't matter. Don't matter what I did. And then I think we played Carlisle at home, and it was 0-0. It was about 25 minutes to go, and the fans were all singing for me to come on. And Dave Rushby, physio, he says, "Get him on." Well, I'm sat there in my tracksuit and my blooming like sleeping bag thing. I'm sat there, and he's going, "I ain't backing down to them. I'm not going to, bow down to the crowd and all that." He says, "Look, get him on." So anyway, he goes to me, he goes, "Do you want to go on?" I went, "Yeah, of course I do." And he goes, "Right." So I stand up, and as I undo the zippy thing, the whole crowd go mad like that to come on. And he goes, "You haven't even warmed up yet." I says, "I'm ready," like that. So we had a corner. So as it goes in, ball gets crossed up, centre half goes to Andy Morris, looks like he's going to head away. Everyone goes out. Andy flicks it, and I just go walk in, bang, 1-0. So I score straight away, first touch. Then I set Kev up, and then I went through just on my right foot to hit it, cut back inside, and I bent in the top corner, right up to the cop. We win 3-0 in 20 minutes. I get man of the match. So as I'm coming off the pitch, he comes up to me and he puts his hand out, and I grab his hand and like push him away. and then when we get the changes, "Oh, you did that for all your fans, did you?" and all that. I said, "No." I said, "Every time I work my bollocks off in training, I said, I score goals, it's still not good enough." So we play Darlington away on the Tuesday. This is the Saturday. On the Tuesday. I've got man of the match in 20 minutes, scored 2 goals. Guess what position I'm playing today? Sub. So I'm sat on the bench. He gets to the 90th minute, and he goes, "Right, you're going on." And I went, "What do you expect me to do in there? With this?" And we hadn't had a shot on target. We hadn't even gone close. I got the ball, beat 2, chipped the keeper, come off the bar, and went out. As I'm walking off, he punches me straight in the chest, and he goes, "You couldn't do it for me today, could you?" Like that. And I just went, "I'll give up." That's what he's like. But because he was getting his fans were on his back all the time, he used to send the apprentices into the stand and sing his praises to try and get them on his side. Yeah. And I used to just cringe. I just thought, really, you can't, that desperate. But like I say, I play golf with him many a time since then, and I don't hold it against him. It's just business. So I just wish him well.
Is it tough when because obviously you're the player, he's the manager. You can't really, if you've got stuff that's maybe being said about you or being inferred about you or whatever from like the management, is it hard as a player to you can't really go out and say your bit, can you really, if you're
No, because they stop anything going into the press, with the Derbyshire Times or the Sheffield Star. If you did an interview and they'd want to know what was going in, and if it was anything derogatory against him, it would just not be put in. Or because they just say to us, "If you put that in, you don't get another interview from us." Simple as. So that happens. But I used to just bite my tongue. But at the end of the day, I kept trying. He wanted me to work hard. I worked harder in training. And Nicky Law, I remember saying it. I said, "Nozzy, you're working so hard in training." I used to train on my own after anyway. And then at night, I used to do 500 sit-ups and 250, or was it 500 press-ups? Yeah, 500 press-ups, 250 sit-ups. And I used to do sets of 10s, 20s, whatever. And I used to do that religiously every night when I put kids to bed and that. And so I was always stronger, fitter. And then after training, I would do my shooting and then make sure that I did my runs and do extra. So I'd always be fitter than anybody else. I used to come back pre-season. I used to do 2 weeks before we come back. So I'd hit the ground running. Everyone else was struggling. So always be on top to be fitter than anybody else. Because you're playing against centre halves who are 12, 13 stone, and I'm like 11 stone. I think it was 11.4 when I finished. But I came in, I think it was a 10.4. I put a stone on in 7 years, but obviously muscle. But I just prided myself on being fitter than anyone. I knew I weren't, I could smash anybody at press-ups and sit-ups. No one could live with this. But just the way I played, I probably didn't look. I think in the Chesterfield book it says idle or idle. So just obviously the spelling.
Despite playing in a struggling team, he's left the likes of Gary Lineker, John Barnes and Steve Bull far behind. He's thoroughly enjoying himself.
It was really good. Obviously, you want to play as well as you can and score as many goals, and to be top in the whole of Britain, it's tremendous, yeah.
It didn't start quite so tremendously. After 2 minutes of his Halifax debut in October, he missed the target from about 10 feet. Since then, he's been on the up and up, from a Carlisle United reserve to a star in 6 months.
And when I got my golden boot, and then Shoot wanted to do an article, and 442, I think the magazine was, and something else, and they're asking me, what boots do you wear? I said, well, I got given sponsored boots from the club, and they were just Mitre, I think they were, and everyone got the same. I said, and then when they run out, the club gave me 15 quid to go and buy a new pair of boots, and I got some off the market in Halifax there, and I paid a tenner for the studs and £5 for the mouldings. They were and they were the cheapest pair of Pumas you could come across, practically plastic. And I'm top goal scorer in the Football League, and I'm having to do that. and they said, oh, we can't put that. They put down, oh, he wears Puma Kings and Copa Mondials, and I drove I think it was 5 or 6 year old Astra GTE, and they'd say, oh, we can't do that, put down a brand new car. I said, well, you're just lying. And this is what it is. They didn't want to show you of being someone who was battling through all the hardest conditions to try and be something that they all think, everyone, these footballers now, I think the minimum wage is about 30 or 40 grand when they get first year pro. I never earned that.
Yeah. I mean, like most of the players I've spoken to, they've had careers where they've not been able to retire on, and not do anything for the rest of their life. They've all had to go into other professions or things because, I mean, really, you're really lucky to play football, and I think everyone kind of appreciates how lucky they were to play football. But it's by no means the golden ticket to putting your feet up for the rest of your life, is it?
You have to make a lot of sacrifices just to get there. For staying in, not drinking. I hardly touched a drink really until I retired. I used to have the odd night. After a game in the club, we'd have a few drinks with Norton Lee and that. But very rarely, and it's only when I retired that I, have a drink now. Whereas before, I never used to. The odd time in the house, the night before the game, I might have 2 or 3 beers, bottles of beers, play out your skin, think, oh, next week I'll do the same. Then you were crap, Then the next week, so you sort of not do it with a beer, then you play great without it. Then the following week you play crap because our standards, you'd have 1 good game, 2 average, and a poor game.
And one thing I wanted to ask, as a goal scorer yourself, is do football fans appreciate goal scorers enough? Because there's been Chesterfield players down the years, even recently. I'm thinking we've had people like Leon Clark and Christian Dennis and people like that have played for Chesterfield and scored quite a lot of goals. And yet they've always been like, oh, well, they're a bit lazy, or they don't run enough, or they're not tracking back, or and sometimes you think, but they're scoring loads of goals. So, like, what's the problem?
I always used to look at your job was scoring goals as a striker. That was it. And if you scored your goal, you've done your job. And it's the hardest job in the world. I don't care who you are, what level you play at, even if it's Sunday League. And if you're scoring 30, 40 goals a season, it's still really good. But some players, some players might score goals, but they're not the most gifted, or they might not have that finesse where they can run through, or that ability to go past people. And fans, I remember when we were here and we started trying to play a bit of football instead of just, and hear the fans, get it in, bloody box. That's all you could hear all the time. But then obviously you pick the ball up and you beat a couple and score, then they used to love it. But, like Big Andy took a bit of crap at times, and a few others. But they pay their money. Look, I got it at Carlisle. But it was nasty more than anything there, whereas they were just frustrated here, really. But it must be horrible if you're on the end of it all the time, because a lot of players now have played better with no fans in the ground because they're not getting echoed at. And I remember Trevor Ebbard, he used to get slaughtered by fans in the Cop end and that. They're always having a go at him. I remember we had a corner and we went in and he stood on the edge of the box, and some bloke shouts out the crowd, Ebbard, I wish you F off back to Jurassic Park. He shouted. Poor old Trevor goes, I bloody need that. But when he weren't in the team, you realise how good he was, You don't play with blooming Southampton with England internationals and play at Derby. He was a quality player. He could pass, but because he did all that stuff that people don't like doing, stopping the play, giving it to people who could play. He was underrated, really, but a lovely fellow as well. Really nice guy.
What was a typical goal for you? What do you think the majority of your goals were? Was it kind of beating the offside trap, rounding the keeper?
Yeah. I've got quite a few on. Well, my lad's going to put all my goals, get them put onto a USB, is it? I think it is. But some of them are that old back. They're on videotapes, from my Scarborough days. He's supposed to be. He's going to do that when he next down. I'll give him everything I've got. But yeah, a lot of mine. I didn't score many from outside the box. I might have started outside the box and then went through and then scored. But I used to just side foot them in because you didn't have to. I watched Jimmy Greaves and you didn't see him hit the ball. As long as you get one-on-one with the keeper, you only have to put it either side. It's just having that confidence. And I used to say to people, why panic in the box? It's the safest place in the world. They can't touch you when you're in the box. And when I used to get the ball, I'd take a touch, dummy to shoot, drop my shoulder, they'd commit themselves, just knock it aside, and then the keeper's there, and then you just put it there or there, and it's a goal. That's how I used to look at it. Whereas a lot of players, even now, you look at these top players, as soon as you get in that box, it's like cat on a hot tin roof. They panic at it, and then they'll slash at it, and I think, why? You look at Jimmy Greaves, Romario, Fowler, they used to just get it and just side foot it in. And then you look at like Ian Rush and Lineker and what's his name, Liverpool, Michael Owen. They were relying on pace. And then when they used to go through, you'd see them slash at stuff and it bobble in the corner, or it was all. And when that pace went, their game went as well. Whereas you looked at Fowler, he'd get it, go, Jimmy Greaves did, or Romario. They would, and like even Mickey Quinn, who used to be at Newcastle and Coventry, he was a great finisher as well. So I always looked to players like that who could just side foot them in. And you don't have to hit them. And you see so many kids who get through and they just put their head down and blast it. Well, if a keeper's coming out and you're shaping up, he's got to plant his feet. As soon as he plants his feet, you pass it past him. He can't get there or there. I don't care how quick he is. He ain't going to do it. But when you give it and you hit it full on and it's coming at pace, then you have to just get a slight touch to that and it's gone. It's out there. But half these players, I don't know if people don't coach them. If I went up here, because Paul Lemon, I played golf with him, was it 3 or 4 months ago? We played at Grassmore. It was for Chesterfield in the community or something. And we went up and played, and he was saying, he says, you can't tell these kids off. You can't have a go at them. Like we used to get cups of tea thrown at you. They grab you around the throat, put you up against the wall. We played. I was at Scarborough with Neil Warnock, and we were we were second, and Crewe were top. And we come in at half time. and we're 1-0 down. And he walks in, he picks his tee up and he goes, "My boys," and he goes, woof, and he launches it up against the wall and it goes all over your suits and that, we're all down like that, thinking, Jesus. So he rips into Kevin Brackwell, he misses Craig Short out, he rips into Steve Richards, and Ian Benny was missing him out, he rips into Mitch Cook, Gary Brook, and he gets to me, misses me out, and then does a few others. And then he's effing and blinded, and then he goes, and he turns around, he kicks the physio's bag, and then he goes, and Dave, who was our physio, he goes, "You best have a look at me toe, I think I broke it. It was a weight shoe in there," and he's booted that. So he's gone, go, the rest of you go in the shower and get a wash. So gone in, he comes hobbling in, he puts his arm around me and he goes, "Show me why I spent 50 grand on you. Show me why I'm a good manager," like that. So that used to make me go like that. That made me go up. And then all the ones he slaughtered, that made them all go like that. So anyway, we go out, we come in, I think we won 3 or 4-1. And he walked in, he got his tea and everyone started crouching like that. And he went, "My boys," he put his tea down, he goes, "I gave you 1 day off last week. Best make it 2, see you Tuesday," and just walked out. That's how good he was, man management. But he was brilliant. He was the best man manager I've ever played for.
So did you have a favourite goal then throughout your whole career? Putting you on the spot a bit.
Favourite goal. I scored quite a few when I picked up and beat a couple of 2 or 3 defenders, and I've scored. There's a good one against Crewe when Mark Williams was playing against him, Dean Spink. And I remember beating him once, twice, beating him again, and then sat the goalie down and just tapped it in. And all I could hear behind me was shoot, 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 like that. Oh, lads. Obviously, the Liverpool goal, scoring, that's a highlight goal because obviously the occasion. But I scored some good goals. One for Carlisle. I scored a great goal against them when it came over, and I sort of dragged it down, and I sat the lad down, sat the goalie down, rolled it in. I've got quite a few of them type of goals. I chipped Mervyn Day here, and I remember on the video, because I used to get the video of the goals after if I scored, and the commentator, I'd done a 1-2. And I think it weren't supposed to come back to me. It was supposed to come back to somebody else. And I took it and just took a step. I chipped Mervyn Day, and he sort of just jumped and went like that, saying it's over. And obviously he was further off his line than he thought. And he just dropped in. And I remember the commentator go, "He's done Marvin Day. I think he's done the crowd. They'll have to pay to get back in," and something like that, which I thought was funny. But yeah, I scored some tremendous goals really when I look back. But it's hard to put your finger on probably one, and there's nothing that jumps out. Nothing really. I just said you'd probably have to say the Liverpool goal because of the occasion, really, because you build yourself up for them games. You as soon as you get the draw, you're building yourself up and that, and sometimes it can be a proper letdown because you don't turn it on the day, or you just don't happen for some reason. But that night we were all G'd up, and from the first whistle we tried closing them down, keep their heads down so they couldn't see a pass. And it was a great occasion.